Ms.
right.
Valls. Kristi Valls, special guest this morning. And congratulations on being named ZTV's legal analyst.
Thank you so much. That's the highest honor I've ever had.
High-paying job, high-paying
I love
position,
it.
too.
I love it. I can't
Checks
wait for my
in the mail.
first paycheck.
Yeah, I know. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, while we were gone, the big verdict came in. But I
Casey
gathered around the
Anthony.
TV that day, and like everybody, I said, okay. And in like, what, 2 days? I said, man, well, guilty, 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 guilty.
I think everyone thought she was guilty.
Okay. Being a former prosecutor here in Limestone County, what was your reaction?
I really wasn't surprised by the verdict. Now, I knew it could have gone either way, but, you know, circumstantial evidence case, you present your evidence and hope that you've done your job in picking the jury. And as I told Gloria earlier, I think, you know, a different jury the next day may have found her guilty. You know, they always tell us that when you pick your jury is when you decide the fate of the case. And I believe in this particular case, obviously, that happened. But, you know, the prosecution has the burden of proof. They have to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. And they have to prove each and every element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I didn't hear the whole trial, and I know it's easy for us to sit back and read People magazine and read the articles, and we know as much as anybody about the case, but I'm not exactly sure what all of that came into evidence. And the jury was then sitting there having to know that each and every element of the crime, including that Casey Anthony did cause the death of Kaylee Anthony by how. And obviously the jury could not reconcile
There were a
that.
lot of things watching the trial. There were a lot of things that were brought out, and they said that the jury would never hear this information. So that was a good point there. And they could never link her with the body.
But
no DNA.
Right.
most normal people know this woman is guilty. Partying with her kid missing, they don't report it for a month, gets a tattoo, just out looking after herself. I mean,
But reasonable doubt is you don't know how someone's going to act in a situation.
And I agree with you, Jamie. I
think
believe
so
that,
too,
you know,
but-
it's very obvious to us sitting here that she was guilty. And the jury didn't say that she was innocent. They
Right.
clearly said that she was not guilty, that they had not been proven to them beyond a reasonable doubt that she was guilty. That doesn't mean they believe that she didn't do it, but it means that they felt that it was not proven to them beyond a reasonable doubt.
The one question that I kept thinking about was, if your baby died in the pool, okay, where's the body, where's the baby? At what point did you lose the body?
Absolutely.
And that really wasn't brought up a bunch.
No, it wasn't. And, you know, as a prosecutor, you don't always know exactly what the jury's going to be hung up on, and you sometimes think, well, that's obvious. And maybe they didn't stress that enough or didn't point that out, you know, the way that they should have. I've seen the interviews of the prosecutor and the defense attorney, and I think they, you know, both did an excellent job. I just believe that the case was over when the jury was picked.
now,
Way too
wasn't
much
it true
media.
that Baez, the defense attorney, his license was suspended a couple years ago for failure to pay child support?
I had heard that as well. I don't know
What
that
kind
for
of
a fact.
attorney don't pay child support?
Oh, well, he won.
Now he's the most, and probably now he's the most famous attorney in the nation.
Probably
Certainly a
so. I
boost.
know it was easy for me to sit back and criticize him while I was watching the case, thinking, I don't think he's doing a particularly good job, but once it's over, now he looks like the best criminal defense attorney in the state.
Yeah, and there's a couple of articles talking about the jurors and what kind of life they will live now. One lady who
The
was a juror, a
guilt.
black lady, was a juror on the O.J. Simpson deal. And she said she has a white neighbor who hasn't spoken to her in 20 years.
Oh.
And they have to live with this the rest of their life. But the jurors right now, names have not been made public.
That's correct. I did see one on TV who maybe has
Yeah, a couple of them have
come out and said something. And, you know, you realize that while this trial is going on, they're living in a vacuum. They're not allowed to watch TV. They're not allowed to read the newspaper. They know nothing about what's going on in the outside world. And they probably had absolutely no idea what their verdict was going to do to the public till it was actually over.
And that's what the articles are saying, don't hate the jury, hate the facts. There just weren't enough facts brought
You know,
out.
our system's not perfect, but it is the best system in the world. And sometimes guilty people go free and sometimes innocent people are locked up. But for the most part, our system works, and you have to believe in the system. And there are times when we clearly know that the jury got it wrong, but we also don't know what we would do in that same circumstance.
What do you think she should have got?
Well, you know, in looking back and Monday morning quarterbacking, I can look at it from the, not from Florida law, because I'm not exactly familiar. I did read their verdict forms, and their law is clearly different than ours, and I could also see how a jury, in hearing the law, would be totally confused. But in looking at it from our perspective, even if you take it and look and say, okay, she died in a swimming pool, if we take it at their story, she died in a swimming pool, maybe she wasn't being supervised, then the crime was covered up. It sounds a lot like reckless murder in the state of Alabama. So, you know, even if, with her story, it could have been reckless, could have been criminally negligent homicide, could have been something in the state of Alabama.
But they can, now, I'm sure they could come back, the prosecutor could, who since retired, but the mother lied like the whole bunch should have been arrested for lying, except the former boyfriend, the daddy. I don't know. He might have been telling the truth, but dang, what a lying bunch. So they just get off scot-free.
But how difficult is it to prosecute someone for perjury? Isn't that
Perjury
very
is difficult. It has to be a material fact in the trial to start with that they lied about. I did see the prosecutor talk about he didn't know whether or not they would bring her up for perjury charges or not.
Retiring.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's something that they may want to sit back and think about for a little bit before they rush to judgment. Having dealt with the public for so many years, and your husband Robert too, dealing with the juvenile stuff he does, how would you classify this family? I mean, are they just a bunch of perverts and weirdos or what? Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, clearly from what I know from the media, they're obviously dysfunctional and strange family life, to say the least. So I don't know that it's anything that we don't see, on a regular basis, but they were clearly a dysfunctional family.
What did the fiancé say? He said, we all have dysfunctional families, most of us, but they're really highly dysfunctional.
I saw him say that.
I know, I've been around mine long enough. They're pretty bad too, but they ain't nothing like that. All right, let's change the subject a little bit on Kevin. But I know, before we do that though, most of America is mad. They've got like 500,000 people now on Facebook saying, I hate Casey Anthony, she needs to die, this and that. What do you think will happen to her? Well, I can't even imagine what her life would be like. Now, I've heard that she will be offered book deals, and she's already been offered a porn flick. That's right. So, there's money out there for her, I'm sure, but I'm sure she will be in some sort of her own prison for the rest of her life. Does she have to have some sort of protection of her own? But that would have to, she would have to provide that herself. She would have to provide that herself. I'm sure that she probably would, if you can imagine being the most hated woman in America at this point. So. But I don't imagine that her life will be the easy street that we think it might be. She's going to have a rough time of it, obviously not in the penitentiary. But all right. Let's change a little bit about the immigration deal. You were at the meeting with Senator Holtzclaw and Dan Williams, State Representative, Saturday morning about Alabama's being sued now. And I'm sure several people are going to sue us over this immigration bill. What are your thoughts on that? Well, every state that's passed this immigration bill or similar immigration bill is now in federal court, and I don't think this was, unexpected. I think everyone expected that at some point there would be a lawsuit filed, and it was filed, I think, on Friday, challenging the immigration law. I expect that parts of the law will stand and parts of it will fail. I don't think that was unexpected from any of the local delegation. I think they all expected that it would be challenged and that parts of it would probably go away. What if some people that we all know have workers that have been with them for years, say 10 to 20 years, and they've raised families here, yet they're still illegal? What does that do for that person who works for reputable companies here in Athens? Well, I asked that question Saturday of our local delegation, and I was told, there are no exceptions. Mind your own business. Well, similar. There are no exceptions, I was told. Whether someone has worked for a business for 20 years, I specifically asked that question. What if someone has worked for 20 years for a company, they pay taxes, income taxes, they have Social Security taken out on them, they're never going to collect that. But if they've done that, all their children are born here, they own a home here, they've bought cars, what is the difference between them and someone who came across the border yesterday? And there is no difference. This law does not distinguish between
illegal is illegal.
Illegal is illegal and does not distinguish in any way. What you will find right now is the clerk's office, Charles Page, is covered up with those people, those families who are going to the clerk's office trying to get a passport for their children, to take their children to a country that they've never known. but to take them there. By the same token, you all know that in this legislative session, the budget was cut so that Charles Page is losing 6 employees in his clerk's
Really?
office.
Oh, wow.
So losing that, but yet he's covered up with passport applications. So I had asked the delegation on Saturday, please, in the next legislative session, focus on getting this state back funded, getting us where they need to be so that they can handle these type of things. The immigration bill, to me, one of the worst parts of it is the fact that it is an unfunded mandate. You know, there is no money there for the sheriff's department, the police department to actually go out and enforce the immigration law. There is no statewide agency that's going to handle the immigration law. So you have a lot of new laws within this immigration bill, but yet no money to actually enforce the law.
So yet if you stop someone and they can't prove that they're legal, they go straight to jail?
They can be detained, yes.
Okay.
I've
So
got
fuller
a
jails.
great
Yes.
article I'll share with y'all later about Ricky Thompson's article in the Huntsville Times about how many of y'all want to go out and start catching chickens early in the morning and stuff like that, too. All right, let's change subject to one other thing. Let's talk about the beer run in county SUV. Now, in the articles in the paper and stuff says that's going to be turned over to Brian Jones, current district attorney. But is that something for the DA to, is that, will the DA have any say in this? Isn't that a county commission problem?
Well,
Why would that go? Why would they even
Because
mention
there's
that's
laws
going
that
to
are
the
being
DA?
broken.
if I haven't seen the DVD, but provided
I have it
that
right
it
here.
is what it is,
Yeah.
that there are laws that could be applicable in this case. And yes, the DA could look at them, local law enforcement could look at them, but also I would assume that it would probably be referred to the State Ethics Commission for their input into whether there was a violation. And yes, it is a county.
Sounds like
commission
somebody's
problem.
got a personal vendetta against somebody.
It does sound that way, yes.
Yeah.
But still, what happens if he's found guilty?
Well, I'm not exactly sure which of the violations could happen, but, you know, some of them are criminally,
Okay.
you know, not that could be in violation of the criminal code, but they also could be in violation of the ethics code, and either one of those could carry different penalties.
Well, somebody sure is spending a lot of time and effort on trying to catch Commissioner Daly doing some of these, you know. So, follow me around sometime.
You don't go
By the
anywhere.
way, you're open now for private practice on the square? Where's
I
your
am.
office?
I'm open. I'm actually in a temporary office at 201B West Washington, which is upstairs, beautiful office, but I am no elevator. So I'm moving downstairs as soon as my office is renovated, which is 205 West Washington between Smiths and Crawfords. I'm doing all kind of law.
And what are you handling? All kind of
All kind of
divorce and
law.
all that stuff?
I am, and I'm having a great time.
Well, good.
She's already been retained.
And our and our ZTV legal analyst.
Yes, my second job is the most exciting job I've ever
yeah.
had.
Yeah,
Get to
well,
get up
thank you, Kristi. As
early.
always, tell your husband Robert we said hello. Thanks for
I
that
will.
Texas T-shirt. I'll wear it one of these days. I'll
And
run out
for
of other
the
clothing.
delicious ribs that he
Yeah,
made
the
and
food.
brought
Yeah,
me.
Thank
somebody
you,
knocks
that's
on the
great.
door. Before I can get there, there's
It's
food at
delicious.
our, you know.
I know.
Hey,
what
thanks,
great
Ray
friends.
Gold, for coming in this morning. You bring me some tomatoes?
He brought me some
No
green
tomatoes?
beans, squash.
No tomatoes. Corey, show a shot of Ray there, my vegetable man here who's coming in this morning. Hang on there.
He's beating
Ray's
you on the
claim to
hair.
fame is my hair is thicker and better than yours. Yeah, way to go, Ray. Thank you, Kristi, again for
Thank
coming
you.
up.
Thanks for having
we
me.
pp. got to go. It's good to be back in action. If y'all need anything, ZTV at jamiecooper.com. Y'all keep enjoying retro television. The only place you can see it is right here on ZTV 11. Soon to be going
Soon.
digital. Hey, and, you know, don't forget, Knology is moving us from Channel 99 coming up to the end of this month. If you have a problem with that, just contact Knology. Let them know how you feel about it. That's all we can say about it. So there you do.
Moving to
If y'all get about 100,000 to call them, they may move us somewhere else. Just hope they keep us on. They're good folks to work with. All right, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Falls.
Thank you.
We got to go. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Bye.